Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee, and I'm excited here today to talk about agentic AI. It is one of my favorite topics these days, partly because it's super interesting, and I hope you find that too as we go through the content today. But also because it's the potential to actually make a big difference in my life, professionally and personally, is what I'm really excited about. So I'm going to talk today about what agentic AI is, what the state of it is, what are some of the myths, some of the realities, and also I would love for you to share where you're coming from, and also share how you are hoping to use agentic AI. Again, you may not know what it is, or you just may be hearing about it in the news, but it is like the big new thing right now when it comes to technology and business. So let's get into it. I do have some slides I'll be sharing today. And let me just share where they're going to be. I'll post them also here live as well. If it goes to, there we go. And I think some people, if you could post it into, if you see the URL, post it into LinkedIn, that would be super helpful. Let's see. Okay, let's get into some of the content here. All right. So first of all, one of the reasons why I'm excited uh, about AI agents is, first of all, that prompting is really hard. So I don't know if you've seen this, but to use prompts consistently to get them to do the things you want to, especially if it's a more complex, multi-step request that you have of AI, it's really hard to get it right. And so you're sitting there tweaking it, trying to make it a big prompt. It could be used and trying to remember it and use it over and over again is really difficult. So one of the beautiful things about agents is that it allows you to remember a prompt, get it to be very specialized, and to take all of these steps without you having to be at the keyboard. And that is very exciting. So these agents can start doing things on their own, and in particular, for you not to be there. And so I think it's really interesting to see what the potential for these things can do. And so just to give you a quick definition of what agentic AI is, and this is from my friend Jeremiah Alia. He talked to a lot of people. I think it's one of the best definitions that's out there. And if they are autonomous software systems that can perceive their environment, so they can understand what's going on. They can have computer vision, or they get access to data, but they were able to see changes that are happening, make decisions, and then take action to achieve a very specific goal. And I think those are very specific things. They can make decisions, take action in service of achieving something you wanted to do. And what's really interesting about agents, they also have the ability to learn and to adapt. And this is what's really different. Again, are surrounded by agents around us. So your smart thermostat is an agent. It understands the environment, adjusts the temperature up or down. Your Roomba vacuum cleaner that goes around your house can anticipate that there is a dog in front of you, so it doesn't run into the dog, even though your cat may ride on top of it. And again, it's an agent that understands the objective, clean all the floors, and then also can take into account changing environments like a chair has moved or a dog is there. So we have agents all over the place in front of us. And what's different now is these agents are becoming incredibly powerful to be able to take and understand what's going on. So I thought I'd just give a quick view of the various different types of agents. And this comes from Delmira Barras. And one of the things that they lay out is, again, we have had different levels of AI. We had in the beginning just process automation, and then machine learning, and now the most recent area of generative AI. And agentic AI is a little different. It's building on those past areas of AI, but it's taking a very specific goal, as we talked about before. It's making a plan of how it's going to achieve the goal. It may get data, and then it makes some decisions, and then it has some sort of integrations, for example, with applications where it can take actions. And then it reflects and says, was that the right outcome? Did I achieve my goal? It builds it into the memory and may go back and do more planning again, take another action and reflect and go, this is good. And then it finally gives a response or takes that action. And so this loop again, of having a goal, having a plan, decisions, reflection, learning from it, and then constantly going through these iterations is a key distinctive aspect of agentic AI. So, one of the ways to be thinking about this is looking in particular at how these things work. And the way I really like this whole idea of AI being an orchestrator. So, it's orchestrating the request that you're put into it, the goal. And it's going out and looking at data. It's looking at what skills and capabilities it has by access to all of these different applications. And then it has autonomy to be able to make decisions. And there may or may not be a user experience in here. It could just be doing this completely autonomously. And it's then using all of that information, the access to, again, the knowledge base, the integration into applications, the skills and capabilities, the ability to make decisions, and then it's interacting with that foundation model. And so what's happening here is instead of the user getting all those things and then working the foundation model, you're cut out of the loop. So we've talked a lot about humans having to be in the loop. Now AI agents are taking humans out of the loop. And this is the key question that happens is how do we actually do that? Because we like to hang on to things, we like to control things, and we may not actually even trust these things. And I'll talk about that in a second. But McKinsey is estimating now that 30% of human work could be handled by these agents in just a few short years within the next 6 years by 2030. Now, I just want to take that into account here. We oftentimes talk about how AI is not going to replace us. It's people using AI that's going to replace us. And I still believe that to be true. But the reality is, a lot of work is going to be replaced by AI, and it's going to be replaced by people using AI. In many cases, the AI will run autonomously. So I think this hope that we've had that AI is not going to replace us, the reality is a lot of the work that we do will be replaced by, instead of humans doing it, it will be AI doing it. And the challenge is, what are we going to do as humans to integrate, use these AI to work alongside them and change the way we work too. And the reality again is that work will fundamentally change, jobs will change, careers will change very, very quickly over the next few years. Now, the big caveat I have here is that companies are not changing as fast as the technology is. I recently spoke at a conference of some investors, and they're like, we're happy to use AI as long as it doesn't take away our spreadsheets. We love our spreadsheets. We trust our spreadsheets. These are things that we have developed over decades. Do not take them away. And I can reassure them that your spreadsheets will still be there, but your AI may be sitting alongside you using those spreadsheets to help you make better decisions. And so, again, the way that we work and the pace of change is really constrained not by the technology, but by our adoption and our comfort with all of this technology. So, I want to pause here and see if there are any questions that we have. I think not right at this point. So, by all means, if you have any questions or you have any concerns or insights about how you are thinking about agentic AI, please put them into the comments. I would love to include you in this conversation. All right, let me just go on and just give you some examples of how AI agents are creating value. And we already have a lot of agents that are out there helping us do work better. So we're using AI already to write emails, to create content, to analyze data. Those are all great things, but we have to typically be at keyboard to do that. And then it's going to, again, AI agents are going to allow us to work much more autonomously. So, for example, if you are a hiring manager or if you're working AI recruitment, you could do a lot of the scanning of resumes to basically screen them, understand them in a much more efficient way. We could be using AI to schedule meetings. I don't know about you, hate scheduling meetings. I already have tools like Calendly, but being able to be more autonomous when an email comes in requesting a meeting, and if that email meets certain criteria, it's somebody that's interested, they're looking to book me for an event, for example, it will automatically screen that and send an invitation to set up a meeting with me. So instead of waiting for me to hopefully respond within a decent amount of time, it could go out there and buy inventory when things become low. So you just set an automatic goal, keep inventory at this level. And instead of waiting for somebody to see that, it will just automatically issue that buy order. And eventually, it'll become more of a peer, again, working alongside us, being able to optimize supply chains. Again, instead of you trying to figure out when it's going to happen, it can proactively go out there and manage things. It can set up and run your entire social media based on certain criteria that you have around topics. It can understand and suggest things, even book them and optimize and reply to things. It can even manage scheduling, things that we as leaders and managers are constantly doing, trying to optimize the people and their schedules. Now AI can actually do that for us without us having to, again, manually go in and even use AI. It'll just proactively do that. So the key question here is, how much do we trust AI to do a good job? And this is the thing that's really important as we bring AI agents on board to our organizations. We are going to need to continuously train it, to continuously see what the impact is, and understand, do we use humans for this job? Do we use AI and an agents, or do we use an interface of a combination of the two, a hybrid of the two? And that is the important role of managers in this space, because we need to be able to understand how all of these things work together. And just like a new employee, you're not going to trust a brand new AI agent to do the job completely on its own, straight out of the box. You're going to have to train it to do the things that you do. So that orchestration level that I talked about before, that is very bespoke and very custom to not only each organization, but to each person based on how they work. And so this is very unlike other types of enterprise technologies where you could just roll it out, give everybody the same training, and then expect that everybody will be able to use it. Again, AI agents are very custom to the way that you do work, down to each person. And so AI agents themselves have to learn, and we as humans have to learn how to work with it in a continuous way that supports our existing and modifies our workflows. All right, I'm going to go on and talk about some very specific examples of agentic AI. So, for example, you could be creating some videos. The AI agent could, again, you give it a go, create a video that's going to go on TikTok that explains these things for 90 seconds. It'll do the research, create the script, generate the images, do the sound engineering. It'll even publish it, and then even do marketing around it. So, how much do you trust the AI to do each of those steps? In the beginning, you're going to want to see the results or have it do the whole job, not be so happy with it, and then be able to go back and see each of its decisions along the step and have it explain, how did you make that decision? And if you don't like the decision that was made, give it feedback to say, no, that wasn't the right decision. This is the right one. It'll learn and do it differently the next time. So again, this is a very iterative process. There has to be continuous learning on the part of the agent and also on the part of the person, of the human, and how to use these agents, when they can trust it, when they can sit back and let go of control, and always looking at that quality. And then the supply chain, for example, you could identify that there's a shortfall in inventory, check availability, negotiate, confirm prices, and then reconfigure your delivery routes. Again, every step along the way, you want to have confidence that your AI agent is doing it the right way, as if a human would. Again, that takes iterations, it takes time. Sales, this is something that actually that I mentioned before. You could screen inbound emails, identify qualified leads against a preset list of criteria, and then respond appropriately. Like, yeah, I would love to set up some time. Here's my scheduling link. Or, I'm sorry, we really can't help you. It's just given what you're saying, or we need more information. And then customer service. I love this real world example. There was a utility company in the UK that, by regulation purposes, needs to contact people with special needs when there's an outage to see if they need anything. And this is a very cumbersome thing to do under a short amount of time. And so they started using agents to reach out to people, ask about their needs, triage them, and understand what those needs are, and then act on them for example, put out the query to different departments depending on what that need is. So again, these are very specific things that people are doing today with AI agents. And the key again is how much do we trust it to do the right job? And again, this builds over time and our comfort level with it. All right. So here's a question from someone. How do we ensure that unconscious bias isn't built into or learned by agentic AI models? Most of our clients in regulated industries are not ready for the risk of non-human agents operating and learning without human supervision or other models watching for issues. That's a great point. So there are two things here. First of all, I don't think that you can have these models be unsupervised. That is the goal eventually, but in the short term, they need to be supervised for you to gain confidence and trust in them. And you brought up a really interesting point. It could be a human that supervises it, or it could be another agent that is looking at the results and saying, that's no good, go back and do these things. We call these critics, these agents that are acting as a critic to say, let's look at those results. Let's look at them against a set of what good looks like. Here are the instructions of what quality means. And you don't meet that quality. Let's go back now and figure out why that didn't work. And you can have an agent actually do that for you. So again, this is sort of a brave new world that we're talking about. And so unconscious bias, unreasonable results, undesirable results, are all things that you have to anticipate are going to happen. So having the systems in the beginning and continuously to monitor and make sure that the results are what you want them to be. And here's the thing, quality and accuracy are have to be clearly defined. So what does it mean to have quality results? And that's different from having accurate results. The accuracy, if you're making a medical diagnosis versus the accuracy for a social media post, is extremely different. So, what does accuracy and quality mean in these areas? All right, let's see. Here's another question here. I teach undergraduates and work with them on using AI as a tool, but struggle with figuring out how to tailor instruction to individuals while also working with them on developing critical thinking skills. Any recommendations? Patricia, great question. It's again, I think, and this has to do with AI agents too as well, because as the biggest concern is that if we relinquish a lot of the work, the heavy lifting work that we do to agents, do we become lazy and dumb? And again, this is where critical thinking skills become so important. I think that one of the, again, as Patricia said, critical thinking skills in using these tools, especially as they become more agentic and independent of us. So this is one of the key things when you're tailoring, again, the learning instructions, especially for work that they're doing outside of the classroom. How do you really encourage them to demonstrate that they are using critical thinking? And so it becomes harder and harder when the AI can do that critical thinking. But giving them very specific instructions on how to use AI to encourage them to think, again, instead of asking AI for the answers, use it to ask you questions that you then have to answer and ponder in the work that you do. So I think AI as a tool is important in the same way that you can do math with a calculator. But if you don't understand the fundamentals of math, you can't use a calculator really well. Same thing with writing, with analysis, with thinking. If you don't have the foundations for doing that, it becomes much more difficult to be able to gauge how to use these tools and to ensure that the quality and accuracy is there. All right, I should probably do something on education. I've been doing a deeper dive into how education is having to change and the way that we teach, the way that we actually instruct and use AI in the classroom side by side with us as teachers is becoming much more interesting. And I think in particular, the ability to personalize the instructions based on the learning strengths and needs of each individual student is one of the most exciting areas of AI. I have members of my family who have learning differences, and the potential of AI to be able to meet their needs to help them be able to learn and also express themselves is absolutely incredible. All right. here. Here we go. Sorry for the glitch there. Hopefully it wasn't too much of an interruption. I love this point from Jay. It's not how trustworthy AI is, but how trustworthy its users are. Always a great point, because AI is only as good as the people using it, deploying it, even again in the automation aspects of it. All right, let me move on. I'm just watching the time here. So one of the things that's going to have to change in particular is how we engage with AI. And this is one of the areas that I'm particularly interested and excited about. This human agent interface is going to change significantly. Right now, we have one major way of interacting with large language models, and that is through a chatbot. And imagine, again, the way that we engage with all our other technologies becomes much more conversational, like a chatbot. So imagine you can go into your CRM system, and instead of seeing all these menus and forms that you have to fill out, you just basically ask, you put in a request, create a report of our monthly sales. And because a lot of the input is already automated through various agents, it's pulling from your emails, it's summarizing your conversations that you've had on Zoom and automatically putting them into the record. So you don't have to do a lot of the things that you would normally do with CRM. I have yet to meet a person who says, I love working with my CRM. Again, the way that AI agents are becoming very useful is reducing all of that work. And for example, the view that you get in your enterprise software could be very different depending on whether you're a manager who needs to see an overview, or if you're a developer who needs to see very specific tasks. So it's not one size fits all. It can be very proactive, and it can also be very decentralized. Imagine engaging with your CRM, for example, on Teams or on WhatsApp, so you don't even have to go to an application. It's wherever you live, you can be able to interact with your data, with the knowledge and all that information, all that richness, wherever you are. And so that's just some of the interesting things around agentic AI, is that you can take something that had to be centralized and uniform because of the constraints of enterprise technology, and really rethink the way that it can work because of agentic AI, and make it work for the humans who need to engage with those agents. So I'm very excited about that. Wanted to see if there were any other questions. Again, I have a little bit of time here, so if you have any questions or comments, please put them into the comments and I'll see them. The one of the last areas I want to talk about today is just how we are thinking about managing both agents and humans side by side. And again, I talked about this before. It's less about we're worried about AI replacing people. It's changing how we work. And then, so managing and leading work, whether it's done by humans and people or by AI or a combination of the two, remains highly important, very important, and also remains in many ways the same, and yet it's changing rapidly. So you're thinking about, for example, with training, that you're focusing on helping people work with AI. And it's less about having them become AI experts. I get this question all the time, is how do we stay on top of AI? How do we understand it? How do we understand the whole world of everything that's happening? And I'm like, that is not your job. It is not about understanding and being able to work with AI as a technology. It is changing so quickly, there's no way to stay on top of it. So accept that you can't know everything, and instead focus on the very specific things you need to know to be able to work with it. And that means understanding how you're going to use AI with your people, how the work is going to change, how they have to change alongside, how you as a leader have to change alongside with them. And the metrics that you use to understand the successful use of AI applies to both AI and humans. Whether the work is being done by an agent or by humans or a combination of the two, you should be measuring it with the same metrics, because then you can compare apples to apples and say, is this work being done better by one of the combinations of those three, humans, agents, or combination of those two? So looking at accuracy, efficiency, quality, how well are people collaborating with the AI? How good is the adaptability of both humans and the AI to changing circumstances? So looking at metrics as a holistic way to understand and optimize how you work with AI is a key part of leading and managing agents and humans together. And then finally, as I mentioned before, it's continuous improvement that's so important. All right, I want to just go and finish with one slide, and I see a couple more questions in here. What's coming up? There are so many things happening in the space. For example, we have these very specialized AI agents. They're calling it vertical AI, meaning it's highly specialized for one specific task or industry. It is this application layer of AI agents that's so interesting because you can tap into any sort of data, into the interfaces and applications inside a workplace, but it's very specialized to understand and be that orchestrator across a very specific set of tasks. So I'll give an example. Oftentimes people I want the Uber of all the personal assistants to do everything for me, sitting on my meetings, summarize them, write emails, do everything. Who's actually managing all of those things on your behalf. But in the short term, we're going to have to develop each of these specialized agents to do a very, very good job, and then have this hierarchical agent that manages all of them across the board. It decides who gets priority, who's doing a good job, who's not, to achieve your goals. We're having no code AI agents. If you've had a chance to play with OpenAI's operator, it is pretty amazing to go and program agents on your own without any code. So this is the future where we can each design our own agents to go do the things we wanted to do. We have voice agents. If you play with the new Alexa, it's pretty darn good. We have conversational agents that are being built into platforms like NVIDIA and Meta. And then we have these purpose-based agents, sort of like the specialized agents being developed by Microsoft and Google. We also see people like OpenAI announcing, I think they're announcing it today or tomorrow, these new agents that will cost between $2,000 to $20,000 a year that are highly specialized, sometimes with the knowledge of a PhD. So you can supplement your existing workforce with these agents who do much more specialized things. Imagine hiring a PhD level worker with that knowledge for $20,000 a year. That is very, very different than what you would normally pay. Again, if you could find a PhD who would want to come work for you, again, it's really addressing some interesting needs there. So more to come, lots more to come. There's a comment here. Is there any early research or hypotheses that people react and behave differently when they interact with agentic AI versus human? I'm curious about the impact on brand perception and desired human behavior. Well, you may have heard of uncanny valley, this idea that, again, there's been a lot of research that says as the technology gets better and better, but it falls short of being truly human-like, we completely distrust it. So one of the challenges of these new agentic AIs is, how do we emulate human behavior while still being able to maintain that level of trust? So, so I think, again, people reacting to just machines, as long as it's helpful, as long as it's doing its job and you can recognize it as a machine, but the minute it crosses over and tries to do too much, our trust in it dissolves completely. It's a really interesting phenomenon. And so that's why I believe that as we bring these agents on board, our ability to adapt the way we work and to trust them becomes paramount. Because the minute it doesn't do its job, we're going to default back to saying, well, it can't do its job perfectly, so I'm going to default to humans who are far from perfect. But I feel more comfortable with a human than I do with an AI. And so we're going to have to overcome this and realize that just like humans, AI needs to be trained. It is not perfect. It's going to make mistakes, just in the same way that humans do. And that we have to put the safeguards and the guardrails, the reviews, the performance audits that we do with humans in the same way that we do with AI. And this is going to be a learned behavior. It is something that we are going to learn to do as leaders and managers, and also as coworkers with all of these tools. All right, that is what I have for today. Thank you to Dr. Atif for joining. Thank you, Jay, for joining. I'm glad that you all find this very helpful. Colin, thank you so much for joining too as well. Again, I will see you all next week. And let me just share what I'm doing next week. I'll be talking about the myths and realities of data. Again, how much good data do you need to have? What kind of shape does it need to be in? Just all the questions around data that we are constantly, that my colleague and co-author Katia Walsh and I are dealing with constantly. So we'll do a deeper dive into what data looks like, the myths and realities of how to have, quote, good data, clean data for your AI. So join me then, and I will see you in a week. Again, thank you so much for joining today. I love your comments. Please stay in touch and let me know how things are going. All right, take care.